Hare Krishna, welcome all of you for today's Srimad Bhagavatam session. Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 5, entitled Narada's instructions to Vyasadeva on the subject of Srimad Bhagavatam, text 23. Aham puratita bhave bhavam mune dasyastu kasyaschana vedavadinam nirupito balakaiva yoginam shushrushane pravrushi nirvivikshatam. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Sri Narad Muni continued, O Muni, in the last millennium I was born as the son of a certain maidservant engaged in the service of Brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The wonder of an atmosphere surcharged with devotional service to the Lord is briefly described herein by Sri Narada Muni. He was the son of the most insignificant parentage. He was not properly educated. Still, because his complete energy was engaged in the service of the Lord, he became an immortal sage. Such is the powerful action of devotional service. The living entities are the marginal energy of the Lord, and therefore they are meant for being properly utilized in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. When this is not done, one's situation is called Maya. Therefore, the illusion of Maya is at once dissipated as soon as one's full energy is converted in the service of the Lord instead of in sense enjoyment. From the personal example of Sri Narada Muni in his previous birth, it is clear that the service of the Lord begins with the service of the Lord's bona fide servants. The Lord says that the service of his servants is greater than his personal service. Service of the devotee is more valuable than the service of the Lord. One should therefore choose a bona fide servant of the Lord constantly engaged in his service, accept such a servant as the spiritual master, and engage himself in his, that is, the spiritual master's service. Such a spiritual master is the transparent medium by which to visualize the Lord, who is beyond the conception of the material senses. By service of the bona fide spiritual master, the Lord consents to reveal himself in proportion to the service rendered. Utilization of the human energy in the service of the Lord is the progressive path of salvation. The whole cosmic creation becomes at once identical with the Lord as soon as service in relation with the Lord is rendered under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. The expert spiritual master knows the art of utilizing everything to glorify the Lord and therefore, under his guidance, the whole world can be turned into the spiritual abode by the divine grace of the Lord's servant. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So far, we have been reading the instructions given by Narad Muni to his disciple Srila Vyasadeva, who was actually dissatisfied in spite of compiling the Vedas and composing the Mahabharata. So, Narad Muni has been giving instructions to Vyasadeva saying that unless you properly, vividly glorify the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, you cannot attain complete satisfaction. So, those were the instructions given by Narad Muni. Now, Narad Muni, from this verse onwards, he begins to narrate about his past life, how he actually came to this stage of being completely absorbed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. How did he attain this position? What was his background? How did his journey, spiritual journey, begin? All these things Narad Muni is going to now instruct to Vyasadeva and to all of us. So Narad Muni is saying, Aham Pura Atita. Aham means I, referring to Narad Muni himself. Pura means formerly, before this lifetime. Atita Bhave, in the previous millennium. Abhavam became Mune, O Muni, O Vyasadeva. Dasyaha tu Kaschana. Kaschana means a certain. Dasyaha means of the maid servant. Vedavadinam, of the followers of Vedanta. Nirupitaha, engaged. Balakaha, boy servant. So I was a Balakaha of Dasyaha, of a maid servant. So in my past life, I was actually born as a son of a maid servant, and I got an opportunity to be Nirupitaha, to be engaged in their service. Whose service? Vedavadinam, the followers of Vedanta. I was engaged in their service. Dasyastu Kashyaschana Vedavadinam. Even though I was born in a very not so great family, I was the son of a maid servant, but somehow I got an opportunity to render service to the great sages who were all Vedavadinam, who were great followers of the Vedanta. And then, Nirupito Balaka Eva Yoginam. I was engaged in their service even though I was a small boy. Yoginam. And these Vedavadinam, they were not just the followers of Vedanta, but they were Yoginam. They were great devotees. They were always in touch with the Supreme Lord. Yoga means to connect with the Supreme Lord. And one who is always connected with the Supreme Lord is called the topmost yogi. This is what Lord Krishna says in the 6th chapter, last shloka, shloka number 47. Lord Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana. So Krishna says, one who is always absorbed in my thoughts, constantly within his heart, rendering transcendental loving service unto me. Such a person is called the topmost yogi. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana Shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktatamo mataha. Mataha means my opinion. Krishna is telling his opinion. What is his opinion? One who is always rendering devotional service to me with great faith, constantly, and who is always meditating on my transcendental form. He is Yuktatamaha. Yuktatamaha, Yuktaha means to be connected with the Lord in yoga. Yuktatamaha means the superlative degree. Yuktaha, Yuktataraha, Yuktatamaha. Connected, more connected, most connected. So Yukta Tamaha means most connected, most intimately connected with Krishna. That means the Lord is saying, one who is rendering devotional service to me with great transcendental faith, such a person is the topmost yogi because he is intimately connected with me. That is the understanding. So here, that is why Srila Prabhupada is translating the word yoginam as of the devotees, because they were all engaged in devotional service to the Lord. And then Shushrushane, Shushrushane, Pravrushi Nirvivikshatam. Shushrushane means, Shushrusha means to render service. So this boy, maid servant's son, Narad Muni, in his previous life, he was rendering service to those devotees, the Bhakti Vedantas, and Pravrushi during the 4 months of the rainy season. During the 4 months of the rainy seasons, the traveling preachers, the sannyasis, they would not travel, they would stay in one place and they would engage in anusthana, they would engage in severe study and austerities and more devotional service. So, Pravrishi means during the Chaturmasya, the 4 months of the rainy season. Nirvivikshatam, they were all living together in that particular village where Narad Muni, along with his mother, was staying. So that means Narad Muni is saying, I got the opportunity to engage in their personal service. Shushrushane. This is very important. So our spiritual life begins only when we render service to the devotees of the Lord. That is the first step. Adav Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha. Only when we come in the association of the devotees of the Lord, Sadhu Sangha, then we begin the process of bhakti. Adav Shraddha, in the beginning there is some kind of a faith. And with that faith we associate with the devotees. And when we come in the association of devotees, what happens? Bhajana Kriya. We engage in devotional service. The word bhaja means to serve. That is the root word for bhakti. So, bhakti is not simply a sentiment, it is not simply an emotion. That is why wherever the word bhakti comes, Srila Prabhupada does not translate it merely as devotion, but he translates it as devotional service. Because bhakti means it's an activity, it's an act of service done voluntarily by the devotee for the pleasure of the Lord. So, bhakti begins with the association of devotees. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, E Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bija, or Guru Krishna Kripai Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. So there are so many living entities in this material world who are transmigrating from one body to another in this universe, from one planet to another. But one who is fortunate, who is that fortunate person among all such wandering living entities? One who has actually received the combined mercy of Guru and Krishna, and by their grace, one who has received the seed of devotional creeper, Bhakti Lata. Such a person is the most fortunate person. So Narad Muni is telling, in my past life, I was not born as a great Brahmana or in a high parentage. No, I was just the son of an insignificant maid servant. But during the Chaturmasya, my mother and I, both of us got an opportunity to render service to certain devotees who had come to our village and they were staying there during the 4 months of the rainy season. And I got service opportunity. So service opportunity also gives us opportunity of association. Association means not simply physically seeing each other or sitting next to each other. That is not association. Association means to be engaged in one of the 9 activities of bhakti with another devotee. That is called association of devotees. If there are two devotees Suppose there are two devotees traveling in a bus sitting next to each other. Just because they are sitting next to each other physically, physical proximity is there and they have spent time for 1 hour traveling in the bus, we cannot say, oh, I got association of devotee. No. Association of devotee means two devotees, they should be engaging in one of the 9 activities of devotional service together. That then we can say, I got association of devotees. Either it should be hearing about Krishna or discussing about Krishna, remembering the pastimes of Krishna, or engaged in the loving service of the Lord, like this, or offering prayers to the Lord, like this, when one is engaged, then we can say that it is association of devotees. So this Narad, the boy Narada in his past life, he got the opportunity to render service to those pure devotees of the Lord. So that means it is, uh, and of course, when he got opportunity, he could also hear from them Krishna Katha that Narad Muni is going to describe in the coming verses. So association plus service, both the boy got an opportunity. Now, from this, what we understand is whatever may be our situation in this material world, whatever family we may be born in, that doesn't matter. Somehow or the other, if we come in touch with a pure devotee of the Lord and render some service, now that is the starting point of our devotional life. It doesn't matter in which family we are born. We should not give more emphasis to our birth because whoever takes birth, Janmana Jayate Shudra, by birth everybody is a Shudra only, unqualified person. But it is the association of a pure devotee that sparkles or kindles the fire of bhakti, the spark of bhakti within our heart. Then our life comes to a proper auspicious path. Prabhupada writes in the purport, the living entities are the marginal energy of the Lord, and therefore they are meant for being properly utilized in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. When this is not done, one's situation is called Maya. Therefore, the illusion of Maya is at once dissipated as soon as one's full energy is converted in the service of the Lord instead of sense enjoyment. So, we are called marginal energy of the Lord. Marginal, Tatastha Shakti. Krishna has got various kinds of energies. They are broadly classified into 3 types. Antaranga Shakti, internal potency, Bahiranga Shakti, external potency, and Tatastha Shakti, marginal potency. Antaranga Shakti means the spiritual energy of the Lord, which takes care or which maintains the spiritual world. And Bahiranga Shakti is the external energy of the Lord, Maya, which is taking care of the material world. And we, the living entities, the souls, we are all individual spiritual personalities, and we are also counted as energies of the Lord. We are all conscious entities, but we are all energies of the Lord. And what kind of energies? We are called marginal energy, Tatastha Shakti. That means, marginal means, Srila Prabhupada gives an example. Suppose you are walking on a beach, you will see a lot of waves, water waves coming from the ocean, and you will see a particular strip of land. Sometimes it is covered by water, sometimes it is uncovered by water. Now, that strip of land can be called as marginal position. It is marginal position. Sometimes it comes under water, sometimes it is exposed without water. Now, that is the position of the jivas, the living entities. Sometimes we are under the influence of the spiritual energy of the Lord. Sometimes we are under the influence of the material energy of the Lord. That means at any given point of time, the soul is either having spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness, Or the soul can have material consciousness. The soul can either live in the spiritual world or it can live in the material world. These are the only two options available for the soul, either there or here. Hmm? Just like a citizen can either live freely in the mainstream society, or if he becomes a criminal by breaking the laws of the state, he will be put inside the prison house. That means a person can either be inside the prison house or he can be a free citizen in the mainstream society. In either case, he is under the control of the government laws only. In the same way, we can either be situated in a material consciousness under the influence of Maya, where we forget our relationship with Krishna and desire sense gratification and become busy in various pursuits of sense pleasure, independent pleasure, or we can develop our Krishna consciousness, become situated in the Lord's service, and go back to the spiritual world. So these are the two possibilities for the soul. So since these two possibilities exist for the soul's position is called marginal position. So Prabhupada is saying, since we are marginal energies of the Lord, we are actually meant for engaging in the service of the Lord. That is our natural, happy situation. But when we misuse our free will, we come under the influence of Maya. So when we don't engage in the service of the Lord, that situation is called Maya. And as soon as we start engaging in devotional service of the Lord, then we actually become free from Maya and we can become free from the influence of the three modes of material nature. This is very nicely demonstrated in this past life of Narada Muni. Right? So, service of the devotee is more valuable than service of the Lord. This is very important. In the Adi Purana, conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna, Lord Krishna says, "My dear Arjuna, those who claim that they are my devotees, they're actually not my devotees. But those who are devotees of my devotees are factually my devotees." So, becoming a servant of the Lord is actually the easiest way to attract the attention of the Lord. When we try to engage in the service of the Lord directly, we are not qualified. We are not qualified. Therefore, uh, it is not a very easy way to directly try to engage in the service of the Lord. Instead, we should engage in the service of the servants of the Lord. A pure devotee who is constantly engaged in the service of the Lord, if we engage in his service and he becomes pleased with us, then he can reveal the Lord to us. Right? Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasadaha. When the pure devotee spiritual master is pleased with our service attitude, then the Lord becomes pleased with us. So therefore, it is very, very important to actually engage in the service of a bona fide spiritual master. Right? And the bona fide spiritual master is expert. Daksha. Dakshaha means expert. This is one of the 26 qualities of a pure devotee of the Lord. Daksha. He is very expert in engaging himself in the service of the Lord. He is also expert in engaging everybody in the service of the Lord according to their guna, karma, svabhava. The spiritual master gives a particular service to the devotee, and by rendering that service, when the devotee pleases the spiritual master, then he makes progress in attaining the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So Narada Muni is saying, in my past life, I was born as a son of a maid servant, but I had the great fortune of rendering service to the pure devotees of the Lord during the 4 months of rainy season. So Narad Muni further continues to narrate about his past life. Let us see that. Text 24. Te mayyapeta khila chapaler bhake dante dhruta kridanake nuvartini chakrupam yadyapi tulya darshana Shushrushamane Munayolpabhashini. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Narad Muni continued, although they were impartial by nature, those followers of the Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I was concerned, I was self controlled and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty and I did not speak more than required. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, all the Vedas are searching after me. Lord Sri Chaitanya says that in the Vedas, the subject matters are only three, namely, to establish the relation of the living entities with the personality of Godhead, perform the relative duties in devotional service, and thus achieve the ultimate goal back to Godhead. As such, Vedantavadis, or the followers of the Vedanta, indicate the pure devotees of the personality of Godhead. Such Vedantavadis, or the Bhakti Vedantas, are impartial in distributing the transcendental knowledge of devotional service. To them, no one is enemy or friend. No one is educated or uneducated. No one is especially favorable and no one is unfavorable. The Bhakti Vedantas see that the people in general are wasting time in false, sensuous things. Their business is to get the ignorant mass of people to re-establish their lost relationship with the personality of Godhead. By such endeavor, even the most forgotten soul is roused up to the sense of spiritual life, and thus being initiated by the Bhakti Vedantas, the people in general gradually progress on the path of transcendental realization. So the Vedantavadis initiated the boy even before he became self controlled and was detached from childish sporting, etc. But before the initiation, he, the boy, became more and more advanced in discipline, which is very essential for one who wishes to make progress in the line. In the system of Varnashrama Dharma, which is the beginning of actual human life, small boys after 5 years of age are sent to become brahmachari at the Guru's ashrama, where these things are systematically taught to boys, be they king's sons or sons of ordinary citizens. The training was compulsory not only to create good citizens of the state, but also to prepare the boy's future life for spiritual realization. The irresponsible life of sense enjoyment was unknown to the children of the followers of the Varnashrama system. The boy was even injected with spiritual acumen before being placed by the father in the womb of the mother. Both the father and the mother were responsible for the boy's success in being liberated from the material bondage. That is the process of successful family planning. It is to beget children for complete perfection. Without being self controlled, without being disciplined, and without being fully obedient, no one can become successful in following the instructions of the spiritual master. And without doing so, no one is able to go back to Godhead. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So, Narad Muni is saying, Te means those Bhakti Vedantas, those pure devotees, Mai apeta akhila chapale arbhake. Mai unto me, apeta, not having undergone, akhila, all kinds of, chapale, proclivities, arbhake, unto a boy, dante, dante dhrita kridanake anuvartini. Dantaha means having controlled the senses. Adhruta kridanake, without being accustomed to sporting habits. Anuvartini, obedient. Chakruhu, kripam, chakruhu kripam, they bestowed their causeless mercy upon me. Yadyapi tulya darshanaha, even though they are impartial by nature. Tulya darshanaha means they have no partiality. They are equal to everybody. Even though they were equal to everybody, they bestowed their causeless mercy upon me. And even as a child, I was I was uh, dantaha. I had control on my senses, and I was adruta kridanake. I was not attached to frivolous sports and playful things. I was not attached to playing, even though I was a boy, arbhake. And I was anuvartini. Vartana means to act. Anuvartana means to act in accordance to the guidance given by a higher authority. So anuvartini means to be obedient to the spiritual master. And because of this, Chakruhu Kripam, they bestowed their causeless mercy upon me, Yadyapi Tulya Darshanaha, even though they were impartial by nature. Shushrushamane Munayaha, I was very faithfully serving those great munis, the followers of the Vedanta, and I was Alpa Bhashini. I was speaking only what was required. I was not speaking more than required. So, this is what Narad Muni is telling about himself, how he received the mercy of those pure devotees. Now, in this shloka, there are certain important qualities which are required that we should also follow in the footsteps of this boy, Narada, of his past life. First of all, he was Dantaha, he was having control over his senses. Without sense control, it is not possible to even become steady in our spiritual practices. If we get carried away by the dictations of our senses and the mind, then we lose the golden opportunity of attaining perfection in Krishna consciousness. Many, many lifetimes we have only served our senses and the mind. And that is why now, even without training, by default, we are all very obedient to our senses and the mind. Whatever the senses are demanding, whatever demands the mind is placing in front of us, even without thinking, without a second thought, we go ahead and try to satisfy those demands. We think that this is my real self interest. Now that is called being under the influence of Maya. That is the proof to show that we are under the influence of Maya. When we become sensuous, simply interested in sense enjoyment, then we are under Maya's sway. We should know that. But this boy is saying, Narad Muni is saying, even as a boy, he was Dantaha. He was very much in control. He controlled his senses, Dantaha. And then he was Adruta Kridanake. He was not attached to frivolous activities. Right? Generally, not only children, even grown ups who are not spiritually trained, they behave very frivolously. Frivolously means what? Loosely, without gravity, they speak and they act. Right? People always seek for some entertainment, manoranjan, ranjana, manaha ranjana. That means they want to keep their mind always entertained. So for that, they try to hear some cinema songs, they watch some movies, or they do some sports, take up some sports and games and all of that. But all these things make us more and more attached to bodily consciousness. One should be very careful not to be carried away by such material propensities. So, Adruta Kridanake, this is very important. Generally, children are very playful, but I was not playful, Narad Muni is saying. That means he was very serious. Sometimes poverty brings a child to such a condition, you know, a poverty stricken family, when somebody is coming from a poverty stricken family, the child is not pampered by their parents with all kinds of facilities from the very early life. So the child knows the distress of this material world. Therefore, uh, such a situation is actually favorable because such a child does not become unnecessarily a prankster or simply playful, no gravity, and the children, uh, when they say I want a particular thing, they demand, and rich parents immediately, they want to make sure that the child is happy. They supply all the demands of the child. Now the child will learn a lesson that whatever I want, I can demand, and my parents will supply. They have never heard no in their life. Now, such children, they can't, when they grow up also, they get into more and more problems because the whole world is not, they think that the whole world is meant for their satisfying their demands. And they can't stand a no from anybody. So we keep hearing many such news. So when such pampered children, when they grow up, and let's say they're trying to have a relationship, they propose the member of the other gender, and when they hear a rejection, they can't stand it because throughout their life they have never been trained to handle no. Whatever they have been demanding, parents have been giving them, because parents think that loving my child means to satisfy all the demands of my child. That is their foolish idea. So when they hear no from a girl, when such a boy hears no from a girl, or when a girl hears no from a boy, immediately they say they become very disturbed, they become anxious, they get depressed, and there are examples of such people who cannot handle such depression. They take extreme steps of ending their lives. So, in one sense, if you see, a poverty stricken condition is actually favorable even from a material point of view. What to speak of spiritual progress? A poverty stricken condition makes a person humble. That is why, in the Vedic culture, the Brahmanas who were interested to make spiritual advancement, they would voluntarily accept what is known as Daridrya Vrata. Daridrya Vrata means they would voluntarily live in a poverty stricken condition. Not that they were not able to afford material comforts. Even though they got all, even though they had opportunities to get more and more material comforts, they would choose to remain in a poverty stricken condition because they wanted to remain humble. And that's the principle of pratyahara. Pratyahara means restraining the senses, not accumulating more wealth than required. This is very, very important for a spiritually interested person. So, Prabhupada gives the example. We have read this in the history also of Chanakya Pandit. So, Chanakya Pandit was a great Brahmana, and he was the prime minister of the greatest empire of the world, empire of our country, Chandragupta Maurya, Mauryan dynasty. And behind the success of Chandragupta Maurya, there was the planning of Chanakya and his policies. But then, when Chandragupta Maurya became the emperor of practically the whole of India, and he offered to his guide, his spiritual master, Chanakya, to live in a palace. He said, I'm ready to build a palace for you. But Chanakya denied. He said, no, a Brahmana has no business to live in this palace amidst luxuries. I just want to live in a cottage. So even though he was the prime minister of such a big empire, he was living in a cottage, in a humble way. So this is actually required. And that is why the Gurukula system, Prabhupada mentions in the purport, whether one was a child of a great king or a rich man or a common person's son, all such children would go to the Gurukul. As soon as they completed 5 years of age, They would be admitted in the Gurukul, and in the Gurukul, they lived a very simple life. Simple living and high thinking is the principle for a progressive human society. Today, we are all living in high rise buildings, high living, but our thinking is so low because there is no spiritual training. But in the Vedic society, from the very beginning of one's life, a 5 year old boy, even if he was a prince, he would be sent to the Gurukul, where he would live in a humble manner as a servant of the spiritual master. As Narad Muni himself instructs in the seventh canto of Bhagavatam, he says, Brahmachari Gurukule Vasandanto Guror Hitam. A brahmachari student must stay in the Gurukula of the spiritual master, and he must render service to the spiritual master. And when the spiritual master is pleased with the service, he will impart the Vedic knowledge to the disciple. So, this is the arrangement. Unfortunately, in Kali Yuga, you know, children are sent to the modern schools, and these schools are nothing but, in the words of Srila Prabhupada, they are no better than slaughterhouses. Because in these schools, there is no training of Vedic culture, there is no spiritual knowledge imparted, there is simply some half baked knowledge which is shared with the students, and they think that, oh, my son is studying in an international school, and my son has become a graduate, a double graduate. Okay, all that is fine. He has earned knowledge to earn a livelihood. With his knowledge, he may be placed in a very good company where he may get a 5 digit or a 6 digit salary. But has he made progress towards the ultimate goal of life, which is spiritual realization? No, that nobody is interested. Parents themselves are not interested. So, how will they train their children? That is why Bhagavatam says one should not become a father or a mother if one is not able to deliver his or her son or daughter onto the path of spiritual realization. So, giving birth to a child, even an animal can do that. It's not a big deal. But making sure that this child the child has to make spiritual advancement, this is the responsibility of the parents. Because the parents, they are bringing a soul to this earth, and now they should be responsible. Oh, now one soul has come to my family, and now how do I train up that person, my son or a daughter, so that he need not have to come back again to the cycle of birth and death? This should be the consciousness of a parent. And that is why Prabhupada is referring to in the purport that in the Vedic culture, there are Shodasha Samskaras, 16 kinds of purificatory ceremonies. And the first purificatory ceremony or samskara is called Garbhadana Samskara. Garbhadana Samskara means even before the child is born, even before the child is conceived, the husband and the wife, both of them, they perform tapasya to purify their consciousness so that in the right consciousness they conceive a child. This is called Garbhadhana Samskara. So this is a very, very important principle, and Prabhupada says this is called spiritual family planning. Nowadays, what family planning people are talking about, the government is promoting Hum do hamare do was there before. Now Hum do hamara ek. Earlier they used to say, have a small family, just 2 children. Now they're saying, oh, one child only. All such things. So this is not family planning. Simply they're focusing on the numbers, quantity. They're focusing on the quantity. But what is more important is quality. Quality is so important. Chanakya Pandit again says, and Prabhupada quotes, what is the use of a son If he is neither a learned scholar nor a devotee of the Lord, what is the use of having such a son? Huh? It's of no use. The Sanskrit word for son or daughter is putra. Putra means punnama naraka trayate iti putra. One who saves his parents from gliding down to hell is called putra. And when will a son be able to save his parents from falling down to hell? Only when he becomes spiritually advanced, when he becomes Krishna conscious. The son is supposed to perform the funeral rites and the Shraddha ceremony for his departed parents. And in the Shraddha ceremony, what happens is he has to uh, offer Pindadana. And this Pindadana is nothing but Vishnu Prasadam. First, he has to offer the food which is prepared to Lord Vishnu with great faith. And then Lord Vishnu will accept only when a devotee offers, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yome bhaktya prayachati tadashnami. Krishna says, only if you offer with love and devotion, I will accept. Duryodhana, he prepared varieties of delicious dishes and invited Krishna to dine in his house when Krishna went as a peace messenger before the battle of Kurukshetra. But Krishna flatly denied because Duryodhana was not a devotee of the Lord. So, if the son is not a devotee of the Lord, whatever food he is going to offer to Lord Vishnu during the Shraddha ceremony, Lord Vishnu will flatly deny. He will not accept. Lord Vishnu is not obliged to accept from anybody and everybody. He will accept only when it is offered by a devotee with love and devotion. So now, if this non-devotee son performs a Shraddha ceremony for the liberation of his parents, it will be a failure because he has no devotion. Ritually he may offer food to Lord Vishnu during the ceremony of Shraddha. Lord Vishnu will not accept. That means the food has not become potent, it has not become spiritually powerful. And when that Pindadana is done for the departed ancestors, no spiritual benefit will be derived by those departed ancestors. That means the parents who did not care to bring up their child to the path of devotional service, they will suffer the reactions in this way by not getting liberation. You see? So, if the parents don't impart proper samskaras, proper training to the child, the parents will themselves will not get the proper samskaras after death. This is how it happens. This is what is happening in the modern day. But nobody is worried about it. Nor the parents nor the children are worried about it because parents are only interested in whether my son will get me a big bungalow, whether he will settle my life financially, all my material aspirations which I could not fulfill in my life, will my son fulfill all of those in his lifetime? Whether my son will get a big fat salary, 5-digit, 6-digit salary, this is what the parents are interested in, unfortunately. And therefore, the sons and daughters are also oriented in that way. In this way, both the lives of the parents and the lives of the children are wasted. No use. Human form of life, such a wonderful opportunity to go back to the spiritual world, but it is not properly being utilized because of lack of spiritual training, and therefore it is such a big loss, isn't it? So therefore it's a duty, Bhagavatam says it's a duty of every parent to not only personally become Krishna conscious, but also impart this knowledge at a very tender age. Srila Prabhupada says, a small child, whatever you teach, the child will learn. Once the child grows up and becomes influenced by many other ideas from this world through bad association, that time you try to give samskaras, the child will not be able to pick it up. It will not be possible. That is why it is said, bend a twig, bend a tree. When it is a twig, you can easily bend it. But once it grows up into a big tree, when you try to bend it, it will break. Therefore, parents should be watchful that the child is not getting into bad association. Before that, the parents themselves should create a spiritually enlivening atmosphere at home by teaching the children shlokas, prayers, by teaching them the stories from the Bhagavatam, by making them chant the holy name in an interesting manner. We should figure out how to create interest in the path of bhakti by involving them in festivals at home, by involving them in various things like decoration of the house, for example, during a festival. If you involve all the children together, they'll be so excited. And then you should tell a story to them, and then they will also become interested. Oh, there are so many interesting stories about Krishna. Like this, they should some impression about Krishna in their heart. Prabhupada says, a child's mind is like a soft clay. Whatever shape you give, that clay will take. In the same way, the child, whatever you teach in a young age, early age, the child will pick up. There is a meaning of Kaumaram Acharet Prajno Dharman Bhagavatan Iha. Right from the age of 5 years, Kaumara stage, a child should be taught the Bhagavata Dharma, the process of devotional service to the Lord. So, therefore, here Narad Muni is telling that I got the great fortune of rendering service to the pure devotees of the Lord, and I was self controlled even though I was a child. I had no attachment for sports, and I was also not naughty, and I did not speak more than required. This is also very, very important quality of a disciple. Not that we speak so much, just because we know to speak. Sometimes we keep on speaking so much. So, alpa bhashinaha, alpa bhashinaha, mita bhashinaha, these are all the expressions in the Bhagavatam. One should speak only as much as required. And especially in front of the spiritual master, one should not boast about himself or herself. In front of the spiritual authorities, advanced devotees, one should only consult whatever is needed, and one should not speak high about himself or herself. One should be very moderate and controlled in one's speech. This is also one of the qualities that Narada, the boy Narada, had in his past life. Let us go to the next shloka, shloka number 25. उच्छिष्टलेपाननुमोदितो द्विजैः सकृत्स्म भुञ्जेतदपास्तकिल्बिषः एवं प्रवृत्तस्य विशुद्धचेतसः तद्धर्म एवात्मरुचिः प्रजायते. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Narad Muni continued, once only by their permission I took the remnants of their food, and by so doing all of my sins were at once eradicated. Thus being engaged, I became purified in heart, and at that time the very nature of the transcendentalist became attractive to me. Purport. Pure devotion is as much infectious in a good sense as infectious diseases. A pure devotee is cleared from all kinds of sins. The personality of Godhead is the purest entity, and unless one is equally pure from the infection of material qualities, one cannot become a pure devotee of the Lord. The Bhakti Vedantas, as above mentioned, were pure devotees, and the boy became infected with their qualities of purity by their association and by eating once the remnants of the foodstuff taken by them. Such remnants may be taken even without permission of the pure devotees. There are sometimes pseudo devotees, and one should be very much cautious about them. There are many things which hinder one from entering devotional service. But by the association of pure devotees, all these obstacles are removed. The neophyte devotee becomes practically enriched with the transcendental qualities of the pure devotee, which means attraction for the personality of Godhead's name, fame, quality, pastimes, etc. Infection of the qualities of the pure devotee means to imbibe the taste of pure devotion always in the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. This transcendental taste at once makes all material things distasteful. Therefore, a pure devotee is not at all attracted by material activities. After the elimination of all sins or obstacles on the path of devotional service, one can become attracted, one can have steadiness, one can have perfect taste, one can have transcendental emotions, and at last one can be situated on the plane of loving service of the Lord. All these stages develop by the association of pure devotees, and that is the purport of this stanza. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So here, what happened at that time, Narad Muni is telling, a very interesting thing that happened. So Narad Muni in his past life was a son of a maid servant, and during the 4 months of the rainy season, when these pure devotees, the Bhakti Vedantas, remained in that village, Narada, along with his mother, would go and do small service to them, and in this way, he was getting their association. And now here Narad Muni is saying, Uchishta lepan anumodito dvijaihi. Dvijaihi means by the Brahmanas, those Bhakti Vedanta, Vedantist Brahmanas. Uchishta lepan. Uchishta means the remnants of foodstuff. Anumoditaha, being permitted. So once he took permission from those devotees, this boy said, "Can I have some Mahaprasadam from your plate?" And those devotees were kind enough to allow him to take that Mahaprasadam. When we offer food to the Lord and the Lord accepts that food, it becomes prasada. Before offering, it is called bhoga. The food is called bhoga. Bhoga means something which is undesirable by a devotee, material enjoyment. That is called bhoga. A devotee should never eat bhoga. That means first, whatever foodstuffs are cooked, it has to be offered to the Lord. So the bhoga, by the mercy of the Lord, when he accepts our offering, the bhoga becomes prasada. Now, when that prasadam is eaten by a pure devotee, and the remnants of such a pure devotee is called as Mahaprasadam. So, Mahaprasadam means the remnants of the prasadam left behind by a pure devotee of the Lord. So, eating, honoring such Mahaprasadam, we don't say eating prasadam, we say honoring prasadam. Honoring means we respect prasadam. That's why we use the word honoring. So when we honor prasadam, Mahaprasadam, it is very, very conducive for spiritual advancement. We develop transcendental consciousness. That is why it is recommended to always take Mahaprasadam. Right? So when we offer foodstuff to the Lord through the spiritual master will pass it on to Krishna, and Krishna accepts our offering. It becomes prasadam. And then again it comes down through the parampara system. The spiritual master accepts the prasadam. Then it becomes Mahaprasadam. And then we take Mahaprasadam. So every day we must take Mahaprasada. In the Mahabharata, there is a verse, Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Swalpa Punya Vatam Rajan Vishwaso Naiva Jayate. Those who have very little punya, little pious credits, they cannot appreciate the value of these four things. What are the four things? Mahaprasadam of the Lord. Secondly, Govinda Nama, the holy name of Lord Govinda. Brahmani, the Brahmanas, and Vaishnavas. Mahaprasade, Govindanama, Vaishnavas, and Brahmanas. These four things one will not be able to appreciate if one has very little pious credits. So, therefore, these are very, very powerful. Mahaprasadam is very, very potent. Prabhupada says, give the example in the purport he gives, that just like when you eat food from an infected, from a person's plate who is having some infectious disease, contagious disease, you will also, by eating that food left behind by the diseased person, you will also contact that disease, isn't it? In the same way, a pure devotee of the Lord is one who is always absorbed in Krishna consciousness. He is always absorbed in loving devotional service to the Lord. So when we take the pure devotee's remnants, the Mahaprasadam, we also get infected with Krishna consciousness. That is what happened in the life of this boy Narada in his past life. Uchishta anumodito dvijaihi. Now, as a corollary of this fact, we should not take the remnants from a materialistic person. Nowadays, this eating the food from each other's plate, it is becoming very fashionable. Eating food from other person's plate, other person's tiffin box, these are all strictly to be avoided, especially by devotees. Because, number one, devotee should take only prasadam. Number two, when you take food which is touched by others, which is tasted by others, it becomes contaminated by their consciousness. So it is not at all recommended to eat each other's juta food which is tasted by others. Even if it is prasadam, we should avoid taking prasadam also from others' plates. It is not at all recommended. So, so these kind of things, parents should teach their children from the very young age, right? These are all very important principles. So what happened after Narad Muni took permission of those Bhakti Vedantas and took some Mahaprasadam remnants from their plate? What happened? Sakrit sma bhunje tadavasta kilbishaha. Sakrit, just once, not every day, just once it happened. Once upon a time, Sakrit. Sma, in the past, bhunje, I ate, I took. Tat, by that action, apasta kilbishaha, all my sins were eliminated, Narad Muni says. Just by taking Mahaprasadam from a pure devotee, our sins will be eradicated. Evam pravrittasya vishuddha chetasaha. And because of this, what happened? Vishuddha chetasaha. Pravrittasya means I was engaged in this way. Because of this, I became purified in heart. Vishuddha chetasaha. My consciousness, my mind, my heart became completely purified of all material contaminations. That is a result of taking Mahaprasadam. Tadharma eva atma ruchihi prajayate. And as a result of this, what happened? Tadharmaha, I became Atma ruchihi, transcendental attraction, prajayate, was manifested within my heart. For what? For transcendental devotional service to the Lord. I became attracted to the transcendental, the very nature of the transcendentalist. Bhakti yoga, the activities of bhakti became very attractive to me. I started developing ruchi, taste for Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. That is what Narad Muni is saying. So if you take Mahaprasadam of pure devotees, this is the result. We become attracted to the process of bhakti. We become very attracted to chanting of the holy names and to hear about Krishna. Bhagavatam also says the same thing. When we engage in Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipraha Punyash, so it is said, when we engage in the Mahat Seva, the service of great devotees, pure devotees, what happens? Vasudeva Katha Ruchihi, we develop taste for hearing about the topics connected with Krishna. We develop taste to hear Krishna Katha, Vasudeva Katha, Ruchihi, taste we develop just by serving the pure devotees of the Lord. And here, the acceptance of Mahaprasadam is what did this change, brought about this transformation in this boy, Narada. So even though from he was from a poverty-stricken family, he was the son of a maid servant, but he got this opportunity to taste the Mahaprasadam of those pure devotees, and because of this, he developed attraction for the Lord's name, fame, quality, pastimes, etc. This is very, very important. This is a great achievement, isn't it? Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula. There is a Vaishnava song. Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu. The dust from the lotus feet of a pure devotee of the Lord is Bhajana Anukula. It is very, very conducive for developing devotional consciousness. That is why every time we come to the temple, we touch the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, receive the dust on our head. So, uh, by coming in touch with a pure devotee, spiritual master, we develop attraction towards the process of devotional service. All our sins will be eliminated by simply accepting Mahaprasadam, and all that which is difficult, the difficulties or obstacles on the path of devotional service can also be eliminated by this process of simply taking Mahaprasadam every day. There is a saying, you are what you eat. So, the food that we eat not only affects our body, it also affects our mind, our thoughts, our consciousness. There is a great connection between food and mood. In fact, even modern science has done a lot of research about this. So people who tend to, for example, people who tend to eat a lot of Rajasic food means the food which is too spicy, too much chili, too spicy. Such people, they are more prone to have a bad temper. They have a very bad temper. So there is a correlation between the food that we eat and our consciousness, our mood. So, in the same way, here, the same principle is here. When we take the remnants left behind by a pure devotee of the Lord, that Mahaprasadam will be surcharged with spiritual qualities. And when we take such prasadam, we also become attracted to the process of bhakti. We develop steadiness. We develop a perfect taste for the process of devotional service. That's a very important thing. So Narad Muni is describing all of these things. Now, such things won't be uh, you know accepted by hardcore materialistic people. It's very difficult for them to accept such facts. But one who has experienced it, Narad Muni himself, he is narrating this. It is his first-hand account of his own experience. What happened to him exactly after he took Mahaprasadam from those Bhakti Vedantas? He became very, very, very attached to the process of devotional service to the Lord. Even though he had heard Krishna conscious philosophy earlier from those same devotees, but now he developed even more attachment to hearing of that philosophy, hearing Krishna Katha, and rendering devotional service to the Lord after he took this Mahaprasadam from there, after taking their permission. So that shows the importance of Mahaprasadam. So let us see what happened to Narad Muni after this. After he took Mahaprasadam, became very attracted to Krishna consciousness by the mercy, the blessings of those Bhakti Vedantas. Later on, what happened? There were certain unexpected twists in his life, some challenges in his life, and how did he face those challenges? That we will understand as Narad Muni is going to narrate the rest of the uh, past life of Narad Muni in the coming shlokas. So before we close, any questions or any comments? One or two we can take quickly. Okay, so one devotee, Lakshmi Narayan, has posted a question on the chat. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Could you please share light on the behavior of Narad Muni of asking or requesting permission of the sages before honoring the remnants of prasadam? That shows that how he was uh, probably he had heard about the potency of Mahaprasadam from the same devotees because he was every day coming with his mother. He was engaged in their service. So he must have got a curiosity. uh, okay, we are talking about Mahaprasadam's effect. Why don't I also try it out? Let me also take some Mahaprasadam. So he asked their permission. Can I take some Mahaprasadam from your plate? Now this also shows that how much he was totally uh, obedient, as we have discussed in the previous verses, obedient or totally submissive. He had so much faith in those devotees. That is because he was dantaha, he was self controlled. He had, even as a boy, he was not interested in frivolous activities and he was very attached to those devotees. So he had developed sufficient faith. hmm, So he had developed faith in the Lord, in the pure devotees, in Mahaprasadam, and he thought, I should also get an opportunity to taste Mahaprasadam. So therefore he requested. So Prabhupada says, even without such request, one can take, even without taking permission, one can take Mahaprasadam of pure devotees. Prabhupada writes in the purport. So that is what I feel. Hope that answers your question. Yes, thank you. So thank you very much. We shall again continue tomorrow. Is
Hare
there any
Krishna,
question?
Prabhuji.
Yes,
I
Pranav.
have some question, but if time is not up, quickly I'll ask one question.
Yeah.
Which one I should ask? I framed a question.
Hmm.
Actually, it is not related in this. I have,
Okay.
maybe I will think and I will ask. Uh, the 2 days back, I had long days back, actually. One YouTube, there is a video regarding Ekambra Kshetra, 108 temple that Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, he didn't actually build that. One of his disciple, he was inquired that regarding that why he was not interested in constructing temple. So I'm not going to ask regarding why not, but there the devotee told that Lord Shiva himself invited him to construct the temple in Ekambra Kshetra, Odisha Dham. My question is it the fact? Confirmation I'm asking. Because nowadays so many videos people upload just for
Now,
confirmation.
how can I confirm on behalf of somebody? How can I confirm? I do not know.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
is there any other question?
I have question, but I will ask
Okay, there is
later.
one question posted in the chat box. Modern education is not avoidable, but as said, if not materially successful and get into spirituality, people may think otherwise, that since he is not materially fit, he has come to spirituality. How to face such issues? Now, that's what I said. I said that even before sending the child to the outside world, to the school or anywhere else, a proper, strong spiritual culture has to be created at home by the parents so that the child develops these values strongly, takes up Krishna consciousness, a strong impression of Krishna consciousness within his mind is developed. So this is the duty of the parents. So I'm not saying you should not send your child to the schools. That is unavoidable, as you're saying. But it is important to uh, supplement his material education along with spiritual training at home. And that is very important. Without providing a spiritual culture, spiritual environment for the child at home, expecting that on his own the child will pick up Krishna consciousness because he is my son or she is my daughter. It doesn't work like that. Consciously, the parents have to think of ways and means without forcing. Forcing also should not be done because when you try to force something on the children will develop a bad taste towards it, and the children will never take up Krishna consciousness. So do not force. You should come up with very interesting and entertaining manner how to attract the child's attention towards Krishna consciousness. That is the duty of parents. Hope that answers your question. Thank you very much for your valuable time. We shall again meet tomorrow and discuss the remaining verses. Thank you. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय विश्व गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.